Hillary Clinton has been caught red-handed trying to infiltrate servers in the Trump Towers and later in the White House. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest bombshell revelations coming out of the Durham probe. We're going to see how the Clinton campaign is being actively investigated as we speak. And stick me to the very end of this video when I'll show you why these bombshell revelations are being revealed now. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Patriots all across the globe. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. I am your daily fake news antidote, your Patriot professor, helping to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we begin, I am so excited to announce that thousands of rhinos have been reported through our brand new website, reportarhino.com. I cannot thank you enough for your positive feedback and to hear how excited you were for this new site. Last week, I put out a poll asking if you would like to learn more ways on how to get rid of rhinos and elect tons of patriots to office, and it was an overwhelming yes. You want more rhino hunting. That's so awesome. And so I'm working on some ideas on how to do that. I'm talking to some of the best rhino hunters in the country, so stay tuned on how we can gather together to take down the fake conservatives and make the 2022 elections the best yet. Keep reporting every rhino you know on reportarhino.com, and I'll have more info for you later in the week, so stay tuned. All right, let's dive right in here. We're going to take a quick break from the amazing freedom convoys in Canada and around the world to focus on the sleaziest of sleazeballs in American politics, and that's, of course, the Hillary Clinton cabal. We now know that Hillary's corruption goes even deeper than we imagine. As you may have heard over the weekend, the Durham investigation late last week submitted a court filing that alleged that the Clinton campaign did indeed pay a technology company to infiltrate servers belonging to Trump Tower and later the White House for the express purpose of linking Trump to Russia. Astonishingly, only Fox News in the States is reporting this. The story's been blacked out in every other major media outlet, even though it's a bombshell story. I mean, this makes Watergate look like a fraternity prank by comparison, so we're relying on Fox and the British media, God bless them, for the details here. But the gist of what's going on here is this, and actually reported on something like this a few months back in December of last year, that another court filing revealed that the Durham probe was indeed investigating Hillary Clinton back then. So in many respects, this is part two to that. But what this court filing is all about is a concern that there's a conflict of interest in the representation of one of Clinton's cronies who has been indicted, and that's Clinton's operative, Michael Sussman. Sussman was one of Clinton's attorneys who helped to arrange the financial transaction between the Clinton campaign and that Steele dossier that had all those salacious and fabricated details about Trump in one of his past visits to Russia that Putin was supposedly using as blackmail against Trump. So Sussman was the middleman, as it were, between the Steele dossier and its financing, its payment by the Clinton campaign. So he was indicted in September of last year. But it turns out that Sussman apparently did a lot more than that. Apparently, Sussman met with tech executives where they discussed infiltrating servers in Trump Towers and then later in the White House in order to try to pin Trump to Russia. According to the former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, who's been meeting with special counsel John Durham, the original purpose of the Russia collusion hoax was a deliberate attempt by Hillary Clinton to distract the public's attention away from her email scandal that was absolutely rocking her campaign. So it was a clear wag the dog attempt, right? I would argue very similar to what Sleepy Joe is attempting to do with Russia and Ukraine right now. Russia's a wag the dog attempt at distracting us from bumbling Biden's failures at literally every level of society. And then after Clinton lost in 2016, the Russian hoax became a way of delegitimizing Trump's presidency, a hoax that the mainstream media all too gleefully signed on to. But now with this latest bombshell, we're seeing just how far the Clinton campaign was willing to go to bring down Trump. They were even willing to pay a tech company to hack into the computers in Trump Tower. And then, of course, and this is the treasonous part, the White House computers. So for his part, President Trump released an official statement in response to the findings, saying that the latest court filing provides, quote, indisputable evidence that my campaign and presidency were spied on by operatives paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign. This is a scandal far greater in scope and magnitude than Watergate, and those who were involved in and knew about the spying operation should be subject to criminal prosecution. In a stronger period of time in our country, this crime would have been punishable by death. In other words, hacking into the White House servers for the express purpose of trying to bring down a duly elected president is a treasonous offense. Again, this is why this makes Watergate look like basically a high school prank by comparison. Now, I mentioned that this is not the first time that Durham indicated that Hillary Clinton was being actively investigated. Back in December, there was a similar conflict of interest filing submitted by the Durham probe. And that means, as I understand it, is that a person like Sussman, who's being indicted, is being represented by a lawyer who works for a law firm that's representing another person who's possibly going to be indicted, and that represents a conflict of interest. I don't know all the legal nuances to be able to go into that, but we saw something similar in December. Thus far, John Durham has indicted 2 individuals, okay? We have one indictment from the side of the person who fabricated the dossier, and that's this Russian expat Igor Danchenko, and one indictment from the side that helped to finance the dossier, and that's the Clinton operative Michael Sussman. Back in December, after Danchenko, the guy who fabricated the dossier, was indicted, Danchenko got a new lawyer, and his 2 other lawyers, for whatever reason, dropped out. But he got a new lawyer by the name of Stuart Sears. Now, according to Durham's filing back then in December, the law firm that Danchenko's lawyer belongs to, that law firm, according to this filing, quote, in addition to the representation of the defendant, a separate lawyer at the same firm is currently representing the 2016 Hillary for America presidential campaign, in other words, the Clinton campaign, as well as multiple former employees of that campaign in matters before the special counsel. Did you catch that? According to this, it's subtle, but it's amazing. According to this filing, the Clinton campaign and its employees are currently subject to matters before the special counsel. That was back in December. That filing made it absolutely clear that the Hillary Clinton and her surrogates, they were being investigated in some way, shape, or form by John Durham. It says it right there in the filings. And this is why Durham filed for a potential conflict of interest, at least in part because if the Clinton campaign is called to testify at Danchenko's trial, they can't be cross-examined by a lawyer whose own firm represents the witness. It's considered a conflict of interest. But the key here is that that filing made it absolutely clear that members of the Clinton campaign are currently subject to, quote, matters before the special counsel. And now we're seeing the fruits of this investigation with the revelations that the Clinton campaign paid a tech firm to infiltrate Trump's computers both in Trump Tower and later in the White House for the express purpose of bringing down a duly elected president. So I don't think that there's any coincidence in the timing of this revelation here. Hillary's been running around, as you know, stoking up media interest as to whether she's going to run again in 2024. And I think this is a very clear message from the establishment, whether Republican or Democrat, for her to take a hike. The days of the Clintons are over, and the establishment is firing a clear shot across the bow that Hillary had better ride off into the sunset and throw away any ridiculous presidential ambitions. At least that seems to me to be the most plausible explanation at this point. We'll see, because if that's the case, then I don't think Hillary will be indicted. If she plays ball, as she walks off into the sunset like a good little girl, the deep state will leave her alone. Unfortunately, right? But that's how the permanent political class works. But if she keeps pushing this 2024 comeback nonsense, all bets are off. So we'll certainly keep an eye on how things develop here. But there is no question at this point, the Clinton cronies are indeed one of the most corrupt forces we've seen in modern politics. And these revelations are just going to further exacerbate the divide between the people and the swampiness of the permanent political class. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on the unbelievably massive freedom rally in Australia over the weekend. You've got to see it to believe. We're talking hundreds of thousands of patriots coming out. It was absolutely amazing. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.